do to help us?
Well, that is one of the things. I just had a meeting with my staff. I think you're right. The EPA has demanded that there be massive changes throughout the country, not just in Akron, Cleveland, everywhere. And the rates are being passed on to consumers. You're absolutely right. One of the things we are trying to do is find a way to reduce the cost. As a matter of fact, I have actually I am a co-sponsor of a bill that would assist ratepayers so that there would be a fair rate and they would not be hit with all of the increases, because the increases are going to keep coming, which is the unfortunate part. The increases are going to probably come for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the cost of the sewer work, just for Akron, is almost $300 million. That has been demanded by the EPA.
Yeah.
So I am working on legislation to try to help. I don't know if we'll get it passed, because obviously I can't determine what gets on the House floor, but I am working on legislation, yes.
Yeah. One follow-up point. Akron has about the worst deal as far as the sewers are concerned of any city in Ohio. I've talked to people from Toledo and Youngstown and a bunch of other cities, and they've seen increases, but nothing like we've seen. So Akron is really suffering far more than any other city in Ohio, even though they all have sewer issues.
Well, I want you to know that your county exec, Russ Fry, did have that conversation with my staff just today. I will be interceding and intervening with the EPA on his behalf, and hopefully that will help. But I do intend to talk directly to the EPA to see if there's some way we can give some relief to the city. Because I do know other cities have negotiated better deals. And so if we could get them to at least renegotiate with Akron, I think it would be helpful. So I am going to be personally talking to the head of the EPA.
All right.
That I have in regard to nuclear issues.
Can I just do one thing? If you have a question, why don't we just come down this aisle right here so I don't know who's there, and in some kind of order. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
One of the concerns I have with nuclear issues is that our country really isn't doing much at all to cut back on the number of its weapons. When we entered into nuclear agreements, the idea was that eventually we would abolish all weapons, that all the world would be without these. Yet we're looking at modernizing our nuclear weapons system. One of the benefits of the Iran deal is that hopefully we can prevent another country from gaining access to these. Hopefully we move along towards eliminating them. Is there any position that you have in regard to the elimination of nuclear weapons and about the effort of the Obama administration to modernize and spend billions of dollars in the process?
Well, I'm obviously opposed to spending billions of dollars in the process. I'm a peace person. I believe in peace. There are times when we have to fight wars. I don't ever want to fight one. I believe that the ones we're in now we shouldn't be in. But I do believe that as a nation we have to be able to protect ourselves and have a strong military and have the weapons we need. And I agree with you. I think we have enough weapons. We don't need to spend billions more on weapons in this nation. We have the best military in the world, and everyone knows it. And I think that right now we need to stop and take a look at the proliferation of war. So I agree with you on that.
Research on my own, and I am very concerned that I would love to believe that someone who is an offender can serve their time, be done, and rejoin our community. But what I am discovering is that with a felony on your record, whether you're a juvenile or an adult, doors are closed to you even after you have done your time. And I'm talking very specifically here. With a felony on your record, you are not eligible for college loan programs. With a felony on your record, you are not eligible for public housing. The list is long. With a felony on your record, you can't be a cosmetologist in the state of Ohio. I mean, and you know this stuff better than I do, so I won't continue, but those are just, some things that I know. Not only that, you're not eligible if you become a victim of crime yourself with a felony for victim's assistance. like any other victim would be. So anyway, I bring all this to your attention, and I know you're very familiar with the criminal justice system better than I am. But I am, and I realize that from state to state, you know, there are differences in what is a felony and how people are treated and up to and including getting their voting rights back. But I hope that Congress will look at this with a broad brush, because we are reinforcing people's inability to get jobs, to go back to school by these terrible rules that relate to felony records. And I know people are surprised that I would bring this up, but quite honestly, given my previous role, but quite honestly, it's very upsetting.
I certainly appreciate it. Let me just say a couple things. Just in the last 2 weeks, the president has announced an executive order that would allow Pell Grants to go to persons who have been recently incarcerated. So that's something that was done by the president. Secondly, there is a law that is called the Second Chance Act, which has been in place for some time. As a matter of fact, my predecessor, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, is the one who actually, she and Danny Davis started that law. So it's a re-entry bill. There's also a bill in place right now to change, to block the box, so that if you are a felon, you do not have to necessarily on an application check that box until they've had an opportunity to come in and talk with you and see what kind of person you are. So we are working on it, because what we know is that that we, as a nation, whether it be the federal or the state government, have created a second-class citizenry because we will not allow felons to work. So it is something that is high on my agenda. Ariella handles re-entry in my office, and I would love for you at some point to talk with her about your experience, and we can tell you what we're doing about re-entry, because we work in re-entry quite often. We do a lot of work with re-entry.
Thank you. Because we're going to feel the impact of that in 2016, for sure. The other issue that is troubling to our voters locally, the residents of Akron and Summit County, have to do with the CSO project. We are working hard in Akron to meet those mandates, but we know if we don't meet them, then we'll be penalized. So we need some real help from Congress, and I know lately we've not gotten any, but we really need some support with this, because not only are we trying to correct the combined sewer overflow problem, we're also trying to create jobs locally for residents. And local control is being taken away from us. Every time we turn around trying to do something for our residents, we're being told that we can't do that because it's a violation. So that's one issue that's really troubling. And another issue that State Representative Amelia Sykes has been really a champion of, and we have been strongly learning more about it, is infant mortality. We have a very serious problem in this county and this city, and we really need some help in that area, because it is really troubling not only to the community at large, but to the African American community greatly. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me just say two things. Ms. Sykes is going to be on a panel about voting rights with me in Washington in a couple of weeks. So we are going to be addressing it. I have a forum that I host every year about voting rights. There is a voting rights amendment bill which has been dropped in the House by John Lewis and others. Our problem, of course, from a legislative body, since we're not in the majority, we have to get them to put it on the floor, and they will not bring the bill to the floor. So we have been on a daily basis asking that the bill be brought to the floor, because we know if it is, it will pass. So we are working that angle as well, and you're going to be seeing more of us working on that too. As it relates to the overflow problems, I'm going to have somebody call you directly, because we are working on that too. So I'll have somebody call you directly. I think, Mike just brought you his card. Mike is going to be the person that calls you.
Infant mortality.
Oh, infant mortality. Sarah. Oh, you already have Sarah's card? But let me just say this to you. Councilwoman. I represent the best health care in the world. And I have too many people who can't access it. I represent between Akron and Cleveland, the Cleveland Clinic, SUMA, Akron General, Rainbow Babies and Children. university hospitals, Metro. I represent all of these hospitals, and my people are still sick. So it is an issue that I have been dealing with for some time, even before I came to Congress. I believe that we have to give access to people who are ill. Part of the reason our infant mortality rate is larger than most third world countries, because our young people don't get prenatal care. And we have to find a way to make sure that they understand that we will make sure that they get it. You know, they think because they don't have certain kinds of insurances they can't go. We need to get the word out.
My name's Jeff Gohite. I'm Executive Director of the Family Promise here in Summit County. It's a program for homeless families with children. We get the families out of their homeless situation and back into a positive housing situation. Can you give us some indication on where Congress is going to go in the coming year on continued funding for the HUD programs and for metropolitan housing authorities, and more importantly, focused on the young children that are affected by homelessness? It's a really big problem. We are able, through our small organization, we're able to house about 40 families a year. Our waiting list right now is 75 families currently in need. That's just our agency in need of housing because they are homeless. And it's a combination of situational poverty and also generational poverty. So anything that you could mention on where Congress is going to be going on the funding side of that?
Well, let me just say two things. One, obviously, when you say Congress, you're pretty much talking about where the majority stands. Now, they have been cutting Health and Human Services regularly, and I expect that it's going to be cut. Now, remember there's that little thing called sequestration, which is a 10% cut across the board every year. So if they continue going the way they're going, it is going to be cut at minimum 10%. I mean, you know, anytime you have a body of people who are, I'm going to try to find a nice word, but who feel that the only way you solve something is just cut everything, you have to determine what is important to you. You have to prioritize. Congress takes the lazy way out. We don't prioritize, we just cut everything. And so what we do is we hurt ourselves more than we help ourselves. But thank goodness, finally, the majority is realizing that this is detrimental. So I'm hopeful that they will see that we need to make some changes, but expect at least a 10% cut. And the other thing I think you have to understand is that Congress has become more divided than it has ever been, just as this nation has become more divided than it has ever been. And a lot of my colleagues in the majority do not believe that there are poor people in this country. They believe that if you are poor, you are lazy. They believe that you are hungry, that it's because you won't work. And so they have this philosophy in their minds that we don't need to help people, people need to help themselves. And they will say, you know, you got to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, and then I'll tell them you need some boots. Rise and tide, and that's all boats, but you got to be in the boat. Our people are neither. And so I am trying to get them to understand that the reason we have programs is to assist our American citizens until they can get over the hump. They'll make you believe that people stay on food stamps forever. They don't. The average time is 3 months. Working poor is the largest number of people on food stamps. Growing, fastest growing group. But when they say everybody should work, think about it. 80% of the people who are on food stamps can't work. They're either children, the disabled, or the elderly. But they would make you think that everybody's scamming the system, which in fact is not true. So it's a battle that we fight. I think it's their philosophy that nobody in America should be poor or hungry, and if they are, it's their own fault. So that's the battle I fight every day. I'm going to continue to fight for you. I don't know that I can win, but they'll know they've been in a fight.
There's a lot more nuance than, and if you believe that they understand mutually assured destruction. My uncles are both in the Indian military. My one uncle is a vice air marshal in the Indian Air Force. another uncle who's a colonel in the Indian Air Force. In 1998, India and Pakistan were in the closest thing to modern nuclear war that has ever existed. And I really believe that mutually assured destruction is something that, to take that away, to imply that there won't be a Tel Aviv as if there wouldn't be a response and Tehran wouldn't be leveled as well, is really a projection. And I just ask if you believe, again, if there's more nuances as they fight ISIS, and if they believe that there would be repercussions to a launch of a nuclear weapon.
No question about it, but they also sponsor Hezbollah and the Brotherhood. So I mean, it is more nuanced, but they still are the bad act. And there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, they are helping us with the fight on ISIS, but partially because they created ISIS in the first place by sponsoring the rebels in Iraq. So I mean, yes, it's nuanced. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if you have to pick one country in the Middle East that has done more to support terrorism, it is Iran. And it is Iran that is saying to the United States, death to America, you know, etc. So I'm with you. Oh, it's very nuanced.
Saudis fund a lot of terrorists
Oh yeah, right. Oh, no question.
across the region.
No question. But the Saudis, you know, throw a rock and hide their hand. Now, I'm just going to tell them what they did. You know, the Saudis want to play all sides, just like Qatar and some of the others. But what we have to do as a nation is to decide what is best to protect not only our nation, but to keep down as much conflict in the Middle East as we possibly can. And even though the gentleman is right, sometimes it may seem like Israel is an appendage, but Israel is the only friend we've got in the Middle East. And so we have always had a relationship, and I think that we always will. But you're still not going to get me to make a decision on this deal standing here today.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And good question, though. Because, you know, we play all sides. And that's what we're doing right now. Mind you, I just met with him last week.
I really want to address you and everyone here and tell you that I do a lot of talking with Congresspeople on a variety of issues. One of them is the low-income housing tax credit, and I spend a lot of time in Washington meeting with members of Congress and senators. And I had the opportunity to meet with Congresswoman Fudge last week with a small group regarding the Iran bill. And I have to tell you that her read on this bill and her understanding of this bill and her questions our questions that we had and her answers were absolutely incredible. And I really compliment you on your read of it, your understanding of it, your passion. I do understand that you haven't made a decision yet, and I know that you're not going to make it tonight. You made that very clear. But one of the things that I would like to do is to ask you to, when you go back to Washington, is to ask some questions of your colleagues, of people in the administration, so that we can continue, so that you can continue to learn and you can continue to answer some unanswered questions. One of those is the side deal, which we're not a part of. We are not a part of any IAEA deal between Iran and the IAEA. However, what came out from the AP last week was very disturbing. I think it should be very disturbing to any American, and that is that in their military nuclear site, they are going to provide the testing. They're going to self-test and self-turn over what is what is in that site. Well, you're shaking your head, you know more than the AP. So anyway, I would like you to ask that question.
I agreed to do that last week.
Thank you. The other one is the deal that just came out yesterday on the weapons agreements between Russia and Iran. Again, concerning. I don't know a lot about it. I don't know that who knows a lot about it, but I would like you to ask those questions. The other is that we had talked about $50 billion of money that would be released through this deal, and there's debates whether it's 50 or 150, but let's call it 50. And I think it's clear that Iran is the leading state sponsor of terror to Hezbollah, to Hamas. How much of that 50 billion is projected to be directed towards state-sponsored terrorism? What the experts within the committees and in your briefings, I think that's something that is very concerning and should help weigh in on whatever your decision is on this. And then the other is the question of could we get a better deal? And there have been over 200 deals that have been rejected by Congress over the history of the United States, and over 80 of those in multi-party agreements. And then you question whether or not it was 80. And so I'd like you to go back and ask that question.
David, I agree to ask all these questions.
And I thank you. And I really, your thoughtfulness, your care is appreciated. You know where I stand. I don't think this is a good, in the interest of, in the best interest of the United States, but I do think that we can get a better deal, and I do think that we should make a deal, and it should be off of the rejection of this deal that a better deal can come about. And so I thank you for all that you've done, all that you continue to do, and I hope that whatever your decision is, it's in the best interest of the United States, and I know that you'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Teach their business law course to law students, and I also help run a business legal clinic where we help small businesses who can't afford counsel get access to, basically legal services. And I see some clients in this room. I really have two questions for you. Number one is, what do you feel could be done for improving small businesses regionally? Just because I think that's so critical, because every time I meet with an entrepreneur, it's so inspiring because they want to start their own business, they want to create their own job, they want to provide for themselves, and so much of our economy is based on small businesses. So that's question number one. Question number two is a suggestion for an unintended consequence of one of the federal laws, just in my practice, that I was going to write an article about this and talk about Congress might want to amend this. And I was like, well, maybe I can just ask the Congresswoman. I am a Democrat. I believe that pro-labor and small business are not opposed to each other. I believe in increasing the minimum wage. But the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's a really bizarre provision that I've talked with a couple other lawyers about. If you are trying to give 20% equity to a friend of yours, if you and your buddy want to start a company and you give 20% equity to your buddy, you actually have to pay your friend minimum wage. And no one actually does it. And they're like, that can't be right, that's so insane. There's no way.
But why wouldn't you?
What's that?
But why wouldn't you pay a minimum wage?
Well, the company can't afford it. So, for example, if I don't have any money and I just start a business with my friend, then technically I have to pay my friend minimum wage. That's what I'm saying.
Not if your friend is a partner.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a really bizarre way that the law has looked at it, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
No, I'll take a look at it.
So
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, it's the executive exemption. So just
No, absolutely, I'll take a look at it.
Thanks so much.
Because I'm a lawyer too.
Yeah.
I read it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
But, no, your business question, I didn't answer that.
Thanks.
Small business, you're right, is the driver and actually employs more people than the big businesses. I think that one of the things that we have to understand is that I think everybody on both sides of the aisle really do believe in promoting small businesses. But most small businesses are really not promoted through the federal government. They're promoted through states and cities. I was a mayor for 9 years. I helped a whole lot of small businesses, but at the local level. So I think that your question is probably better raised at the state and local level than it is at the federal level. I mean, just like the state of Ohio has all kind of funding for new startups. We've got actual departments that do economic development. It's just a matter, I think, of knowing what's available and making sure that you access it. But if you know of a business that you think we can help federally, we're more than happy to do it. I mean, we've got a business in the district that actually is able to look at cargo coming in the ports, which is a national security issue. So yeah, I try to make sure we funded them. So it just depends on what the business is, what level at which they should go. But I really do think that it really is probably a better question to ask state and local. And we'll get back, if somebody gets this information, we'll get back to you on the Fair Labor Standards information. Okay, Mike's already got you.